Sara sensei, hope you are ready to go. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. It's nice to be here with all of you. These are two hard speakers to follow. They're wonderful. And so I'm Jisho. I co-lead Zen Fields in Ames, Iowa with Daishin McCabe. I'm a student of Gengo Akiba Sokan. And I also work for two nonprofit organizations, Raising Voices in Uganda and Beyond Borders in Haiti. And what I do there mainly consists of community education work, popular education and dialogue, as in different forms, as well as girls groups and schoolwork with adolescents around prevention of violence, especially domestic violence and sexual violence. And I've done most of this, not all. I started here in Iowa and still do some here. But most of this work I do in other countries, in Haiti, Honduras, Uganda, Mexico, etc., where I'm usually the only Buddhist, or at least one of the only ones. So in addition to that, Zen Fields does some scholarships for higher education of Haitian students. So this is just a bit of a background or backdrop, because I want to talk a bit about some of those experiences. I think that previous speakers have given such a nice background of what is what this can look like in the various forms. So just a bit of a warning, I do popular education work, which is all about asking people questions. And as we heard from both other speakers, self-reflection and question asking and exploration is a part of things. So I might be asking you a couple of questions throughout this. So if you can find your chat function, you might be needing it to answer my questions. I want to actually start with passing along an excellent question I was asked. How on earth is doing violence prevention education in mostly non-Buddhist countries, how is that Buddhist? How is that work Buddhist? Can anyone, are people's chat functions enabled? How on earth does that connect to Buddhism? Can anyone put some ideas in the chat? I'm gonna make you work here. Or maybe it's not. You can say that too in the chat, that's fine. Easing the suffering of others. Buddhism is a how, not a what. Oh, I love it. That's a fantastic answers. Wonderful. Well, I'm glad a couple of you have found your chat function. This is not the last opportunity. Seeing others as ourselves. Wonderful. Wonderful. So we vow to save all beings, right? Not just the Buddhist ones. Human rights doesn't, just pertain to Buddhists. Also, just to note, I'm a white person who lives in the United States. I have karma to resolve when it comes to people of color. As an American, I have karma around colonialism and racism. It's really delicate and really not appropriate for me to come across as having some knowledge or wisdom to transmit, because that follows an exploitative pattern that precedes me. White people have a long history of forced and coerced religious conversions in most of the countries that I work in. Actually, I can't think of one that isn't the history. So me doing so would be an expression of ego. So most of the time in those places, I'm actually never talking directly about Buddhism. And yet, this is Buddhist because of because of all the backdrop these previous speakers have given us about awakening in education. So I want to actually show a few pictures. So I'm gonna share my screen. I want to show a few pictures and an additional question. So here's my next question. And thank you so much for those that continued to answer that first one, because I think it answers the second one too in some of your answers. Being Buddhist is not about generating more Buddhists, it's about being kind. I love it. I would like to clip all of the all of the quotes from these. So what is an awakened education? Now, Doyo at the very beginning gave you a whole bunch of examples, and Gyokuko gave a whole bunch of examples. Now, the test has come. What is an awakened education? Please put it also in the chat. What does this look like? What does it look like? What characteristics does it have? Listening. Wonderful. A start. Education for mutual learning. Sharing, not imposing. Learning at the same time. Kindness. Role modeling. Tools, vocabulary. Meeting each person as they are. Being open to the views and experiences of others. Yep. Allowing learning to unfold naturally, being alive in each moment. Oh, this is so much better than anything I could come up with. Thank you. Thank you all. This is wonderful. Just to contrast a little bit, and this is in no way to knock schools or school systems who do huge and heavy lifts and amazing work every day. And I have 2 of the 3 little kids that live in my household go to beautiful public schools, and we love their teachers dearly. This comes from a wonderful article that I found in preparing for this by Masato Mitsura on Zen Buddhist perspectives on modern education. And first he sets up and talks a little bit about what modern education is, becoming a bit of an occupational training program to promote financial interest. And that can be a pitfall of where our emphasis lies around education. And that by contrast, what he calls Zen education is a lot of the things that you all have already mentioned here. Seeking spiritual stability, teaching compassion, understanding, listening, teaching by example, finding more time for self-examination and reflective thought, enabling us to perceive and live in a complete state of harmonious existence and connecting us at a universal scale. So just to say that in Buddhist terms, quality education is really aimed at awakening to our intrinsic nature and cultivating our unique wisdom in our lives and in our communities. So it can include both formal education for children and lifelong learning opportunities that continue to sustain those conditions where human rights are also respected, right? And so I wanted to give some examples of, we're talking about meeting each person, each moment, each scenario, problems that arise as well as they are, as it is, and how to encourage awakening in that. So I just have a few examples. Looking at the phenomenon of intimate partner violence or domestic violence, we notice that it happens because of misuse of power. And so we all have power, every one of us has power. So how do we use our power? Do we use it positively or negatively in our relationships with others? How could we use it together positively? To live our precepts and to solve problems like domestic violence, we need conversations and reflections about power and about how we use it. It's about right speech. It's about right action. So Raising Voices, where I work in Uganda, found that by encouraging caring people in their communities to start those conversations in the spaces where they already existed, not ask people to come to a special workshop or something to talk about it, but to really go where people already are and ask themselves and their neighbors and friends and others those types of questions about power and about relationship and about really exploring together, change can happen and violence can be reduced on a community level. So the idea here is that everyone is involved, that no one is outside of this. Everyone plays a role in what is normal and accepted in a community. And the idea here is also that we don't all change all at once. So the questions change based on the moment and the person. There are some guiding principles of where we are, but that question and that learning that can unlock someone's understanding of how to do something differently really depends on the moment and the person. So with attention to where each person is in their process, the whole community can go through a process of waking up to a new way of doing things. Once the process is complete as well, people also have the skills to continue to spark that in others, so it continues to ripple outward. So this is just an example. It's a methodology called Sasa Together that was created by this organization where I work. I did not create it, but have been able to learn so much from working with it about what that unlocking spark can look like in people and what continuous dialogue can do for a community. So when looking at then the realities of adolescent girls, this is something that we came across while using this first methodology in Haiti. We realized that some additional things were needed to support the conditions for girls to be well, peaceful, and happy. 1 in 3 Haitian girls experiences violence before she turns 18. And in some countries in the world, it's more likely for a girl to be sexually assaulted than to learn to read. So not only, looking at this and talking with girls and asking questions of communities, we've found that we would need not only that type of dialogue-based community process that we have with Sasa Together, but we'd also need to bring girls together to discuss with each other in spaces where they feel safe and feel that they can learn freely, and to work with the institutions that have power in girls' lives, like schools, to help them to be safer places for girls to study. So we created this other approach called Power to Girls, where girls groups and schools and the whole community, and when I say whole community, I mean people of all genders in the community and all ages, go through a process of self-reflection and dialogue and ultimately awakened action together. So it works to teach by example. So, in the girls groups, we involve other young women who are slightly older as mentors, who can model new skills and new ways of being. We talk about communication. We ask questions and dialogue about our own power. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of art. There's a lot of things that might be of interest, hands-on activities. Talk about health and financial skills, other important topics that can help girls live in harmony with their communities. And so it's a way to connect girls who are often very isolated in adolescence in the name of protecting them or keeping them safe. It helps them connect with one another in a positive way and with their communities. So just another example. So we started, we were using these 2 approaches and then starting to hear from women and girls with disabilities, where violence against them in many places around the world, including our own country, is often higher than against others in the population. And it's in some settings twice as high, women and girls with disabilities who experience violence twice as much as other women and girls in the community, or more than any other population. So solutions here also involved, you're seeing common themes here, right? Community education and dialogue, as well as the leadership of women and girls with disabilities, directly discussing disability rights in question-based dialogues in the community where these other methodologies were being used, and including an analysis about how disability status relates to power and violence and positive relationships, and how community structures can can shift in order to promote inclusion and awakening. Okay. So just to say, the effect of some of this, we just did a big research study in Haiti about using all these things together and what it can do for people, and found that actually physical and sexual intimate partner violence was reduced in the whole community, not just in the groups we engaged, by half, and by 40% against young women, girls and young women, and by 35% in women and girls with disabilities. And some of that, like the qualitative piece of watching people come alive, and from the place of not being able to speak in front of groups to a place of truly embodying and knowing what could be beneficial for the community and for themselves, and being able to do something about it, it's a beautiful transformation process, yielding all of these characteristics we're talking about open-heartedness and listening and compassion and communication. So then the last example I'll give, and all these examples are deliberate because they're like so far outside of the box what maybe I'm supposed to be doing as a Soto Zen priest. But just to say, another piece is our Zen Center offers scholarships, very modest, to a few students for higher education. And what was that about Zen education not being about financial stability or material gain? Sometimes we break the precepts to keep them, right? So in the context of, spiritual wealth, and material poverty, where people aren't sure what they're going to eat that day, it's sometimes makes sense to support financial and material gain, as well as certain individuals who have this switched on, compassionate, listening, community mind to help their ability to influence others by offering the opportunity for additional education. So in that light, I offer that as another kind of outside the box example. And I just want to kind of come back to, these are a little bit, maybe on just a few additional examples. Each of the speakers has had our approach to them, but it feels like there's so many commonalities in the approach to it. Awakening in education has certain principles, and it doesn't fit in any box because it needs to meet this moment and this person exactly where it is. And it can start now in our lives, in us examining the conditions of this moment with whomever we're with, and looking at how do we encourage this opening, this spirit of listening, this spirit of mutual discovery, this aliveness, the appropriate responsiveness, some of these things that we're seeing that were shared in the chat as well. It can be with anyone, anywhere, and usually involves helping people to grow out of our comfort zones and explore our own hearts and minds and the worlds around us. And everyone deserves the people in their lives that can support us in that process of discovering the world around us at whatever age. And that, I think, is the basic essence of the Sustainable Development Goal in education, is each of us in whatever space we're in with whatever interactions we have can look at the conditions to create that ambiance for someone. And so I guess I don't know where I'm at with time, but I will leave you at that, and deeply appreciate the wisdom that you've shared in the chat and that of the other speakers. Thank you so much.